Good evening, folks, and welcome to this week's episode of Beer Rating with Sean Connors. As you can see, the beer I have this week is Pilsner Urquell. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing the name properly, but it is what it is. In this week's episode, the beer and the chat is all about Pilsner, as you'll see in a second. Now, this beer is a Czechoslovakia beer, and this beer is the original Pilsner, so it's a lager. And actually the name Pilsner Urquell, Urquell basically means, the name means original Pilsner. And it's 4.4% alcohol, and it's brewed by the Citizens Brewery of Pilsen, which is a town in Czechoslovakia. As you can see, it's a golden color, pretty clear, and a nice little head on it. And a nice little flavor as well. Okay, the history of this beer is in fact the history of the Pilsner. And basically it starts in 1838. And basically that year in Czechoslovakia was a bad year for beer. At that time the beer that was going around was ales. Everybody was drinking ales. In Czechoslovakia at the time, I believe it was a brown ale. And as I said, that year, the batch of beer that year, it was bad. It was sour. It wasn't fit to drink. And the tavern owners and the citizens alike pretty well demanded a better beer. And the beer, I think it was 30-odd barrels of beer, or 38 or something. They actually poured it down the drain. It was that bad. Beer in Czechoslovakia is serious business. It's actually, beer is what they call it Czech bread. That's how serious it is. So they demanded better beer. And at the time, lagers were first being invented, specifically in Munich, which was just across the border. So they came to a gentleman by the name of Martin Stelzer. And once again, I'm sure I'm not pronouncing the name properly, but you'll get the idea. And he was an architect. So the citizens, tavern owner, everybody in Pilsen, which is a city in Czechoslovakia, told him, okay, you're the man, we want you to get us a better beer. So he started off by touring Europe just to see what was going on in the beer world. And at the time, as I said, it was 1838. That was the time of the Industrial Revolution. So there were several things going on at the time. Basically, the steam engine was just developed. Louis Pasteur was doing his work, and as part of that, he developed or narrowed down individual strains of yeast. And also refrigeration just came about at the time. So as he was touring Europe to find out, what he was going to do to get a better beer for Pilsen, he came across all these different things. And also he brought back with him a gentleman by the name of Joseph Groll, G-R-O-L-L, which I believe that gentleman was Bavarian. He was a brewmaster. So they came back to Pilsen and they said, okay, with all this technology and this gentleman, we're going to, come up with a new brewery. And that's what they did. And at the time in Pilsen, in the town of Pilsen, or city of Pilsen, the water there was what we call soft water, which was ideal for what would come out as a Pilsner. And also, the ground was a lot of limestone, which was good for, they could carve it out underground, and it was great for man-made caves, which to store the lager of the beer, which was just being developed in Munich. So they started brewing a beer, and in 1842 they developed this clean, crisp beer, which is developed the same way to this day. And it was revolutionized in the beer industry. This was unheard of. At the time, in England, they just started developing a pale ale, but not to this degree, not this clean, crisp ale. And it was unbelievable. And at the time, they actually believed that the gentleman, the brewmaster, actually had the wrong malt, and that resulted in the clear color, or not the clear color, but the golden color clear. But that's kind of not, they don't believe that's really true. They believe what it was when he was in England and going around Europe, he actually brought back with him a kiln, which is a type of oven. And normally, before this, they were always using different things, coke for heating the ovens. But this one actually, they were using wood, which caused the barley, a dark barley, but this one was actually run by coke. So it was a coke kiln, which gave a clear color. So I developed this beer, and Everybody loved it. They were in awe. Also at the time, with the Industrial Revolution, glass was becoming more common. Beforehand, glass was all handmade, or hand blown I should say, and now it was actually being made through the Industrial Revolution, so it was becoming more common. So people were amazed, getting a beer in a glass, and they could look at it, they could see the beautiful colors, the carbonation, everything else. Also at the time, the canals, there was a canal system throughout Europe was being developed, and also a railway system. So basically, for the first time, beer could actually be brewed in one place and sent to other places without going bad. Because beforehand, you had to hop the hell out of it, or whatever the case might be. And also refrigeration allowed it. In fact, there was a daily train to Vienna specifically for beer. So as I said, everybody was in awe, and everybody loved the beer, the Pilsner. For the USA, in 1874, this beer was first introduced, and everybody enjoyed it. And at the same time, the second wave of immigrants were coming to the U.S., and a lot of those were Germans. And with that, they got to the U.S., and as you know, if you look at beer history, Budweiser and a lot of the main beers in the United States and North America came from German immigrants. But the thing was that this was such a success in Pilsen that there was a huge oversight in that they didn't patent the name or the recipe for the beer. So Pilsner, the name Pilsner basically means from Pilsen, which is a town. So they were kind of getting pissed off because everybody around the world were suddenly making Pilsner, which didn't come from Pilsen. So they weren't too impressed. So actually in Germany, just around World War I time, they actually took Bitburger, which you remember from one of the beers I did earlier, they took them to court, tried to get them to, because they had the Bitburger Pilsner. And they took them to court saying, you can't do that, Pilsner means from Pilsen. So as a result of that, if you remember, the Bitburger that I did was called Bitburger Pils, P-I-L-S. And that was a compromise they used. And to this day, in Germany, a lot of the Pilsner, they're not called Pilsner, they're called Pils. And that, folks, is how we get Pilsner. And Pilsner is actually revolutionized the beer world. Pilsner is the most popular beer in the world. If you look at most of the micro brews that we get, especially in North America, your Labatt's, your Coors, your Miller's, your Budweiser, they're all pretty well based upon the Pilsner recipe. 95% of the world's beer consumed is a type of Pilsner. So there you go. And this is where it all came from, the Pilsner Urquell. So you can thank the Czechoslovakians, specifically the Czechoslovakians from the town of Pilsen, for giving us the beer that we know today. All right, back to this one. It's a really good beer, I must say. So the minimum is a 4. I'm just trying to decide if I'm going to go beyond 4 or stick at a 4. It's a little bit different than what we're used to in North America. It's pretty similar, but it's not exactly. It almost got a little bit more of a zest to it, if you would. It's refreshing. It's crisp. As I said before, my rating system, a 1 is, oh my God, I can't drink it. A 2 is, I'll finish it, I probably won't get another. A 3 is a good beer. A 4 is a very good beer. And a 5 is, the heavens open up and we got the beer of all beers. This one, I'm almost tempted to give it a 4.25. However, I said right from the get-go that I'm going to stick with, whole numbers or half numbers. So this one, the original Pilsner, I'm going to give it a very, very, very strong 4.0. Tempted to give it a 4.5. However, the heavens aren't really opening up. It's a really good beer. I definitely recommend it, especially if you like your typical macro brews, but you want to try something different. This is a good starting point. Try it one more time, see if I change my mind. I think I'm going to stick with the 4.0. It's strong 4.0. So there you go, folks. The Pilsner Urquell, the original Pilsner. My rating of 4.0. Weekend's coming up. I recommend everybody pick one up, give it a try. Go on to my YouTube channel or my Facebook page and tell me what you think. Do you agree with my 4.0? Do you think it should be a little bit higher, a little bit lower? I'd love to know. And if you're going to comment, also if there's anything you want to know about beer or the beer world, make a comment. I've been doing little chats for the last couple of months. Most topics I want to cover I have, so I've been digging a little deeper trying to come up with different things to talk about. So if you have something, I have a question, by all means, lay it on me. We'll see what we can do. Until next beer, folks, remember, enjoy responsibly. Cheers.